I'm Sue Hampel, co-president with Pauline of the Jewish Holocaust Centre, and it is my honour and pleasure to introduce my friend Baba Schwartz this evening. When I first met Baba in 2010, I was immediately drawn to her sharp mind and obvious intellect. Baba has this amazing quality in that she sees right into your soul. There is no need to waste time with a polite or superficial exchange. Baba gets straight to the heart of things. Baba Schwartz is remarkable by any measure. Still called by her childhood name, which means Dolly, in the words of Iris Mackler, who interviewed Baba for her Food is Love blog, Baba is dignified, perceptive, energetic, dramatic, hardworking, a linguist, a great reader, a great talker, a wonderful cook, and an especially amazing baker. Margit and Andor Schwartz, known to friends as Baba and Bundy, migrated to Australia in 1958. After a rocky beginning, including farming, running a milk bar, and Baba working for a short time as a Hebrew teacher, very impressive, they created a successful property development business. Baba's story is a migrant success story. That's all the more incredible when you hear that Baba and her mother and sisters were held in a number of concentration camps, including Auschwitz, during World War II, and that her husband Andor lost his entire family in the Holocaust, a loss that marked him for life. ABC journalist Jane Hutchian recently interviewed Baba, and she observed that she was very moved by Baba's ability to evoke the past, especially specific moments from childhood that were infused with beauty, alongside the hell of internment and the sense of dislocation that followed. Baba's recently published book, The May Beatles, and I encourage all of you to read this book, tells us not only about racial hatred and terror, willing collaboration and complicity, but also about courage, survival, and resilience. What comes through the pages of this memoir is that Baba is a woman of great strength and character, determined to leave an important legacy to her family. Baba says she wrote this life story so her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will know that our lives were just like theirs, only the times were different. In 2005, Baba spoke at Yad Vashem at the consecration of the Memorial Path of Remembrance and Reflection. In addressing her father, who was murdered during the Holocaust, Baba acknowledged that survivors of the Shoah carry an extra burden of pain and sorrow and anger. The weight of the load does not diminish with the passing of years. Baba is a truly remarkable woman who has displayed a phenomenal capacity to adapt to situations both during and after the war. She is the embodiment of what it means to be a survivor. I can think of no better person to address you this evening as we commemorate United Nations Holocaust Memorial Day.
Thank you, Sue. Friends, let me tell you about a Holocaust survivor who lives in Vienna. She is 89. Her name is Gertrude. We don't know her surname. She lost all her family in Auschwitz. Last November, she made a video. She warned Austrians not to vote for the far-right party. Her video was seen by almost 3 million people. She made news worldwide. She said that this party aimed to bring out the worst in people, like the anti-Semitism of the Nazis in the 1930s. She said, and I quote, "This is probably my last election, but young people have all their lives ahead of them, and they need to make sure that they are doing the correct thing. The thing that bothers me most," she said, "is the denigration of others." And she went on, "I have seen this once before, and it hurts and scares me." When you see the video, you will understand its power. Her statement is so direct, so matter of fact. She doesn't call up the big issues of the Holocaust. She goes to the seeds of it, the seeds of evil. She can see how it can start with just words. We are having that debate here in Australia today. Is it okay to be a bigot in the interest of free speech? Gertrude says it certainly is not. Google her, simply type in Gertrude, Austria. I am also 89. I too was in Auschwitz. Listen carefully to us, for we are the last of the survivors, the last of the witnesses. I was born in Nyírbátor, a rural town of 12,000 people in eastern Hungary. 3,000 were Jewish. My childhood was very happy. I loved my little family, my gentle father, my lovely mother, and my 2 sisters. Let me quote a passage from my memoir, The May Beatles. This life I am revealing, this father, this mother, this family is the life I would wish for everyone. No harm in any of us, but instead a sense of inexhaustible delight in the world. Yes, if I could bestow a gift on others, it would be to live as my family had lived before the great darkness. Let everyone know what it was like to bask in the love and care of such a mother and such a father. Let everyone now know what it was like to have Erna and Martha as sisters. End of quote. Whilst we were observant Jews, we lived in peace and harmony with our non-Jewish neighbors. But by late 1930, the anti-Jewish laws were introduced in Hungary, and emboldened, Hungarian soldiers would march through the town singing loudly, Zsidó, zsidó, helyte büdös zsidó, mit keresel itt a magyarok között? I will say it in English. Hey Jew, hey you stinking Jew, what are you doing here amongst us Hungarians? Under your sidewalks, lights are crawling. Your mother Zali was smuggled into our land in a sack on your father's back. And as time passed, the words became more dangerous. Mert a zsidó kóser fajta, jól esik az ütés rajta. Because the Jew is of a kosher kind, it feels so good to hit him hard. Amongst our many close non-Jewish friends were the Szűcs family. The parents, with 3 children with their 3. We almost lived in each other's homes. This warm friendship between our families remained unspoiled until one day, in 1938, we saw the Szűcs boy on the street. As we passed him, he looked at us and shouted, "Stinking Jews!" He was influenced by the hateful sentiments that had become commonplace. It started with words and then the actions. The German army marched into Hungary on the 19th of March 1944. The Hungarians themselves well primed in the hatred of the Jews, and they became their willing helpers. And the Germans left the prosecution of the Jewish population totally to the Hungarians. They were obsessed with their Jewish question and worked on nothing else but their Jewish laws. and it all unfolded past with new shocks every day. All Jews had to surrender their jewelry and the radios to the authorities, and all Jews had to wear the yellow star. My grandfather, Yitzchak Kellner, was a community leader, a man of great dignity. He was beaten almost to death for defying the orders of the Hungarians. Then the entire Jewish population, 3,000 souls, was ordered to pack for a short trip. They were all taken holding camps for a month, and then 3 days of unspeakable horror in cattle wagons to Auschwitz, crammed in 70 to a wagon. We were all exhausted by the ordeal. We were all exhausted by the ordeal, driven almost mad by the continual dread and the endless clatter of the metal wheels. When the train finally came to a halt, we did not know, we could not know, that we have arrived at the gates of hell. My beloved gentle father, Yechiel Julius Kaimovich, was gassed in that accursed place. My late husband, Andor, Zichrono Livracha, lost his entire family, and Gertrude of Vienna, I was speaking before, she also lost her entire family. So many lives were taken for no reason, murdered by the Nazis and their enthusiastic collaborators, Yamach Shema. My mother Bushke, my sister Erna and Marta, and I, we survived. We survived by good fortune, and we survived by the iron will and courage of my mother. We survived hell. From Auschwitz, we were taken to a number of other camps, slave labor for the German army. The fear, hunger, freezing cold, and exhaustion were unrelenting. Then the death march, the Russian army was approaching, the Nazis were retreating, and the SS were marching their bedraggled slaves westward, as I describe it in my book. It was winter in Poland. The wind cut us to the bone as we marched. We wore wooden cloaks without socks. The snow hardened on the wood, creating a wedge, and often we slipped and fell onto the frozen ground. We helped each other up. Girls, try to keep your feet, my mother said. Keep walking. We all knew that the SS would drag us aside and shot us if they saw us fall. I looked back once and saw an SS guard holding a woman down while another soldier shot her in the head. Then the body was thrown to the side of the road. I felt sick, and we passed many bodies lying on the roadside, executed women ahead of us. This was end of the quote. My brave mother and sister Erna hatched a plan. We had to escape, and we did. We made a run for it. Before long, we were liberated by the Russian army, and that's another story. We eventually made it back to our town in Hungary. Of the 3,000 Jews, only about 130 returned. I married Andor, we had a son. We made Aliyah, we had another son, and 10 years later we migrated to Australia and we had our third son. This country has been good and generous to us. It has been a free and just country. Let's keep it that way. When he was 79, Andor, alav hashalom, my husband, wrote his memoir. He called it Living Memory. He was driven to record the lives of his family and friends who perished. Let me quote him. Writing it was a miracle. My pen was pushing ahead with full speed. I didn't have to think. Names and days were coming back with the speed of fire, sentence after sentence, all making sense, all of them correct. It was written with my tears. I broke down many times. All my dear family, one after the other, all came back to me. End of quote. Can it all happen again? You bet it can. We might not be the next, but some group will be. So let's keep telling our stories. Let's continue to caution against discrimination and hate. Let us all watch our words before they turn into actions. As our sages said in Pirkei Avot, Chaim v'mavet b'yad halashon, life and death in the hand of human beings. In 2004, my husband and I founded a new path at Yad Vashem. The path is now known as Path of Remembrance and Reflection. We constructed 3 headstones along the path to our loved ones who have no graves, no markers of ever having existed. When you next visit Yad Vashem, walk along this path and you will first see a headstone in memory of all the murdered Jews of Hungary, then one in memory of my husband's family, his father Moritz, his mother Kato, his brother Imre, and his dear little 14-year-old sister Erzsike. And across the path sent the 3rd headstone in memory of my dear father, Julius Kaimovich, who perished in Auschwitz. At the consecration of the path and the 3 headstone, now 12 years ago, both Andor and I talk. And I'd like to say, this is what I said. Survivors of the Shoah carry an extra burden of pain, sorrow, and anger. The weight of the load does not diminish with the passing of the years. To Yad Vashem we come to remember. And then I continued to speak directly to my late father, Zichrono Livracha, and this is what I said. Father, Apukam, I need to speak to you. Now that your name is engraved on that stone, I feel your immediate presence. I feel it as strong as then, when our eyes met for the last time at that accursed place at Auschwitz. Do you remember? 3 hellish days and nights on the train of the damned. Not enough place to sit for all of us. You stood throughout that grim, fearful story so that we could see your beloved ones. You had 5 and treasured 3 daughters. You lived only for us. We were all your life, I do remember. And we were brought to Auschwitz, sheep ready for slaughter. Everything happened with lightning speed. Men and women were separated. Then a selection, this to right, that to left. Mother and we girls with the living were sent, but no way for us to know to which side you went. And then a huge hall, brisk orders backed, all stripped naked, drop your clothes where you stand. Then inmates sheared their heads and gave us rags to wear. And from that shower on a warm day of May, we came out altered, humiliated, shamed. To sea lager took us empty, yet to be filled, stood there for hours in front of our barrack. The air was thick with smoke, the smell of burning flesh. And all the inmates told us unspeakable truth. And then a company of men passed, unforeseen, surprising. I ran to see, were you amongst the men? You wore prisoner stripes and the prisoner cap, easy to recognize. You look like your old self. I, with boundless joy, arms raised, called out to you, Father, Abukam, look at me, here I am. You looked at me puzzled. Question rose in your eyes. I did not know why. I did not see myself. A crazy woman waving, hairless and in rags. Do you remember? And I kept on screaming, here I am, look at me. My voice did it, perhaps, but recognition came. Your eyes darkened with endless sorrow. You could not bear the sight, buried your face into your hands, and shuffled away, sobbing. The last time I saw you. I was 16 then, and you were 48, in the prime of your life, clever, capable, smart. Lipe was with you, your father's younger brother. How you looked after him, fed him, protected him, even in Buchenwald. Duty-bound, you took him, for false promises came for the murderer's mouth, promises of more food at a better new place. And on the second day of Sukkot in 1944, they took you back to Auschwitz to be sent up in smoke. You and your charge, Lipe, your adored wife's brother, with all the others. Father, do you hear me? Good tidings I bring you now from Eretz Israel, from Yerushalayim. I am here to greet you, a content old woman. By my side, my husband of 57 years is good and clever, dutiful and caring, with a warm heart and an open hand, and we love him all. Look at our three sons now, Moshe, Ellen, Danny, denied the joy of having grandfathers. They would make you so proud as they make us parents. Their wives and their children stand beside them also. All are strong, all are bright, yet loving and tender. You would love them, I know. I hope that you hear me, Abukam. Dear Father, יחיאל בן רפאל מנשה, זיכרונך לברכה, עליך שלום.